Today we're talking about goals, your goals, my goals, goals. I have a very fun thing in this folder to share with you that's been very, very important for me and allowing me to reach the goals that I've set out for myself. How do we set goals? What should be a 2021 goal versus something that happens in the future? How do we measure these things? Where do we even start? Well, that's what we're talking about today. And whether you're here for the first time or you are back, welcome in. Thank you so much for joining me today. Welcome. Here we go. Let's get the show started.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Accidentally clicked that button, but it kind of worked there. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me today. If you're here live, say hello to your friends here. Thank you to all the members and everybody, the moderators. You are so special to me. Thank you so much. We got Michael Short, we got GTO, Sean, Gail, Peasant Uprising, Samson, Jen, Games, Save Like a Bear, Grandma Goody, Bill, and more and more amazing people. Thank you so much. Obviously, goal setting is very important. It's similar to like if you were to get in the car and you wanted to drive somewhere, it's so much easier to go to where you want to go if, number one, you know where you want to go. And of course, you can punch that address in the navigation menu or on your Waze app on your phone, hashtag not sponsored, but that's the app I use for driving. And you are more able to better be efficient on your way to that end. And if you get off track, you can know how to get back on. And unfortunately, most people, and this was myself included back in the day before I realized how important it was to plan ahead, it was similar to getting in that car and kind of knowing that you need to go north, but not knowing really which direction or where you wanted to end up. And unfortunately, when you do that, you either run out of gas or you might drive the wrong direction or waste a lot of time and space and energy. And if you're in a car, you're wasting gas or electricity and you might be stranded. And we don't want that to happen, which is why goal setting and goal planning is extremely important. But what does that mean? Does that just mean we just say, oh, next year I want to do this? We often hear this a lot. Oh, next year I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Okay, well, good luck. And of course, this is the time of year when we start thinking about this stuff and we make New Year's resolutions. And typically at the beginning of the year, we're all excited about it. And then what happens, we either fall off the wagon or we get distracted, or what we do daily becomes more of a weekly practice. And then the weekly practice becomes a monthly practice. And then all of a sudden you realize that it's New Year's all over again and you're making the same goals and you haven't really gone anywhere. Or even worse, you've gone even further away from where you wanted to be. So we definitely don't want that to happen. Now, I'm going to do a couple things for you here, but before that, I definitely want to answer Mai's question here because I have to thank you. Mai is asking, hey, Pat, how was your birthday yesterday? I had an amazing birthday. Being stuck at home has been kind of hard this year. I think all of us can relate. But to be at home and to start the day, number one, with family and just like little gifts here and there, and hugs from the kids and a kiss from my wife, like that's all I really need. And then to come on the live stream yesterday and have a blast with all of you, to hear all the wonderful birthday messages and just to have a fun little chat and conversation with you. I had so much fun yesterday. Thank you so much for those of you who were in and for the birthday wishes. And we launched this new merch that if you haven't checked it out yet, patflynn.com/merch. If you want to see that, there's even a link in the description. We launched that. We've had several dozen sales already, which is really cool. And it's just really cool to see people support Team Flynn in that way. And then at the middle of the day, just hanging out with the family. And what we did last night was we drove around town in the dark with our car. And we were just going to different neighborhoods that have their Christmas lights up. This is our tradition. And we wanted to start it a little early. And it was on my birthday. And it was just such a good time. There's certain neighborhoods here in San Diego where just the entire row of houses are all lit up and they're themed, and some of them are even connected to certain radio stations, and their lights flash the same sort of rhythm and cadence as the music, and it was just super fun. So although we didn't go eat out at a restaurant like we normally do, even though I wasn't able to see my parents or my in-laws, and even though it's just like we didn't travel anywhere, I still had an amazing time. So thank you so much for that. And if you weren't there, that's okay. That's okay. But I'm thankful that you were there to share my birthday with me and have that be a part of it. So yeah, thank you. So Let's talk about goals. So when it comes to goal setting, I have to give credit to where credit is due. I've learned a lot from Michael Hyatt. Michael Hyatt is somebody who I met in 2013 at an event called the Platform Conference, and I got really, really, really excited about learning from him. He became my virtual mentor because of the way he not only holds himself and shows up and helps and serves people, but the way that it also brings his family into the mix as well. His family has been a part of his business. He is very, very family centric. And when I envision sort of like the kind of lifestyle that I want to live and the kind of person who I want to be when I'm older, Michael Hyatt always is one that comes to mind for sure. Now, obviously, we want to be ourselves. We don't want to be exactly like other people. But when it comes to how his business and family together were structured and how he's been able to manage things and build his team, I just got to give credit and a big, huge thank you to Michael Hyatt for all he's done for me and my family through his example. One thing specifically that he's done is help me with my goals, not in a one-to-one fashion, but in a one-to-many fashion. For years, he had come out with this program called Best Year Ever. He later wrote a book about this, and a lot of this information now is packaged into his physical planner, which I use, called the Full Focus Planner. I'm not going to bring that out today, but I would highly recommend you check that out in case you need a planner. And there's many planners and different people have different styles. A lot of people don't like Michael Hyatt's planner because they prefer, something different, like the best self journal or John Lee Dumas's Freedom Journal, right? There's so many different kinds out there, but I'm a big fan of the method that Michael Hyatt teaches us with relation to goals, and that is something that then can be written down and followed and tracked and journaled within the Full Focus Planner. But anyway, I have in front of me a folder, a workbook essentially, that was offered with his course. Unfortunately, his course is not available anymore, or if it is, he's just going to be launching it on his own website. I'm not an affiliate for it anymore. But Best Year Ever, Get Clear, Get Motivated, Get Started. Now, I'm guessing that Michael would be okay with me sharing some of the stuff that's inside to share a structure for you with how one might be able to reach and set goals and reach them, obviously. But I would, again, highly recommend checking out Best Year Ever, which is a book from Michael Hyatt, to go a little bit deeper into this, and also check out his Full Focus Planner as well. So before I dive in, I would love to know, what are some of the big goals that you have for 2021? I want to highlight some of them, talk about them, and I'm going to ask you the same question at the end of the stream to see if any of that stuff has changed, or at least maybe you've thought about them in a different way. So I'm also going to share some of the goals that I have for 2021 as well during this stream, and I'm excited just to kind of workshop with this with you together. And I'm going to be using this book as we start talking and getting into sort of today's content for how one might be able to approach these goals. But I know that you've been thinking about 2021, and I want to see what you've been thinking too, right? Sean says, I did BYE 2 years ago. Definitely helped change my mindset for sure. And we're going to dive into some of that as well. I use the after action review regularly now. Yes, for sure. So after you do, this is what Michael teaches, after you do something and take action on it, reviewing it in a more structured manner so you can see what you can learn from it and what you can do better. Your merch store is nice. Thank you, Mentor Host. I'm going to be creating a video on how I created that, because it was able, oh my gosh, lots of stuff coming in. I was able to create that within 30 minutes, and I'll show you how it's using a program called Samcart, and that'll be a sort of training video that'll showcase that a little bit. Consult the Blind Guy. Hopefully create a course and products good enough to make the income to get off disability, Pat Flynn. That's right, Andrew. And I would change the wording a little bit, take the word hopefully out, because I want you to make this a goal. And when you set out for something, and when you know in your head that you're going to make this happen, you're more likely to make it happen, right? And that's one thing that I've learned. This isn't really, I mean, it is taught in Michael Hyatt's program, but this is something I've learned over time. It's what you tell yourself that is more likely to happen. If you tell yourself, well, this is going to be hard, I'm not sure if I'm going to do it or not, you are setting yourself up to struggle more with it, because you're already approaching it with that case. So Andrew, all I want you to do is copy, paste, and share the same thing, but take out the word hopefully and just say your goal is to create a course and products good enough to make the income to get off of disability. In other words, to get off of disability, right? Hey, Archer in the house, thank you so much for the super chat, my friend. I appreciate you. And people have been buying the shirt, man. I love it. Thank you again for the design. Really great. Start my telemedicine business mastermind course. Love it. Applying what I know and turning it into actionable goals. Great, Chris. We're going to be talking a lot about that today for sure. Finally, leave my 9-to-5 jobs as my... Love that as a goal for sure. What's the date is my next question for you. Goals from Peasant Uprising: gain traction with my website and YouTube channel. Mainly, connect with my specific target audience. Love it. Now, of course, we can extrapolate any of these things, and we're going to do a lot of that work today. Gaining your ear for next tripod and staying this side of dirt until 2022. There you go, Bill. Goal: I want to offer one webinar every quarter in 2021. Nice, Natty. I love it. My goal is to just keep going. That's important. Just to stay on track, to continue to stay consistent, I think is really a big lesson for those of us, especially who are content creators. And then, of course, we need to extrapolate that. Well, what does that mean? How does that actually transpire? How do we measure that next year, right? 500 members in my community. I love the specificity of that, Michael. I love that a lot. Let's keep checking. Create a course and products to get off disability. There we go. That's what I'm talking about. Bam. High five for you. Cool. So let's start at the beginning, right? So again, I'm going to take you through some of my work from my previous years in Best Year Ever. And again, highly recommend checking out Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner for a lot more of these kinds of things. Goal from Mahal: earn my first $100 through my affiliate marketing business and gaining my first 1K organic followers who can count on me. I love that last part, who can count on me, right? Fit over 50 to make 2021 the best year of all time, as good as 2020 was. Love it. My 2021 goals: launch 2 to 3 new courses and get an email list growing. I love it. There you go. All right, so number one, we already kind of talked about this. Look at this. Believe in the possibility. I love how Michael starts with up here, and this is where you often know that I start too. You can't have any strategies work. You can't do anything unless you got this right up here. So the biggest hurdle is ourselves. And if we have an approach where we don't believe we can do something, then it's highly likely that it's not going to happen. And there's a quote from Henry Ford that says, whether you think you can or you can't, you're right. So when it comes to goal setting, we really have to believe that we can do this, right? It's not a wish, right? That's the difference here. This is not a wish list that we're creating. We're creating a goal list. And this goal list, then we can reverse engineer to figure out what then we can do. What plans should we be making? What habits should we be forming to support that? That's the other thing that I really love about Michael Hyatt's program, is that it's not just about like, I'm going to reach this goal, but there is a major chunk of what he talks about in relation to, well, what are the actions that I'm taking every day to make this happen, right? And what can I do to make that easy to start? So if it's a fitness goal, for example, okay, well, I want to lose a certain number of pounds. Great. But what is the habit goal that you're going to create? Okay, I'm going to go to the gym 3 days a week, right? And then considering, okay, well, how can I make that happen, right? Okay, let's get on these particular days my gym clothes ready, and the whole goal is to step into the doors of that gym. Very similar to what we talk about in James Clear's Atomic Habits, right? What's the first, simplest, easiest step? Get there, and then everything else will sort of domino after that. Sarah says, I'm really glad you're addressing the power of belief in yourself and your goals without falling into toxic positivity, right? Thank you for that, Sarah. But the first part here is like, your beliefs shape your reality. We experience what we expect. What we believe becomes our reality, right? And this is something that I've been trying to teach my son especially. He gets very hard on himself. He's very competitive. When something does not go his way, things start to unravel, right? And a lot of it is as a result of the approach that he's had, but a lot of it also is just the belief that he has in himself. Whenever there's something new that he has to try or to do, he often starts going to the negative side. This is going to be hard. I can't do this. I've never done this before. Versus, oh, what might happen after this? How is this proven to work for others? And, is this something that I can conquer? And I believe I can do it, right? Self-doubt equals poison. Yes, these are just like notes that I'm taking, and I'm just kind of regurgitating what I've learned. Some beliefs hold you back. Scarcity thinking versus abundance thinking, right? So we often approach things with a binary approach, right? A black and white approach, a yes or no approach, right? For example, if this thing is not perfect, then I am a failure. But that's not often the case, right? And I think when it comes to a lot of the creation that we want to do, I know a lot of you have creation goals, creating a course, creating more content, creating consistent content. I think that we have to understand that it's not about being perfect about those things, right? We have to define what the output actually is and what the purpose of that output is. Is creating content, is the purpose of it to look perfect? Is the purpose of it to have the best audio? Is the purpose of it to, be structured and perfect in every single way? No, the purpose of it is to deliver a message. And you can, in a not so perfect way, still help people and deliver that message. So when it comes to these goals and what it is that you're creating, we need to also define, okay, when it comes to creating an online course, what does that mean? That means that I'm offering and serving this transformation. It doesn't mean that I have a perfect set of modules and a perfect set of videos and everything is absolutely the way it should be. No, because we all know we need to create an MVP, a minimum viable product, something that starts first to help. And as long as it does that, then great, we can continually improve it over time. We can address certain holes that might be still in there. None of my courses are perfect. And we continue to try to make them as great as they can be. But if we waited until they were perfect, I would have 0 courses right now. There would be none, right? So again, going back to abundance thinking versus scarcity thinking, I think another part of this is this idea that it can happen for us, and that despite maybe there being competition, despite there maybe feeling like maybe we're a little bit late to the game, also realizing that, we have an opportunity to take part in this, and it doesn't mean we're taking anything away from somebody else. It just means that we can add to it and we can provide value and we can gain from it, right? Let's see. So one exercise that he has us do is to pay attention to your cynicism, right? So thinking about like what you want in each sort of domain of your life. And I love that Michael Hyatt's Best Year Ever stuff. And this is not sponsored. This is not like he didn't pay me to talk about this today. I just wanted to talk about goals, and Michael has taught me the way to approach goals. And one thing that I love that he does is has us think about where we might be having doubts within certain areas of our life, not just in business, right? But for example, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, physical, marital, parental, social, vocational, avocational, so hobbies and related things like that, and financial, right? And then through there, starting to realize, okay, well, which parts of your life do you seem to have the most doubt, right? Because then now we can start to focus more on those when we start creating goals. So let me list those out one more time. Spiritual, I think it's important to have some spiritual goals and to think about the spiritual aspects of your life. Intellectual, learning, education, etc. Emotional, how are you feeling? Mental health, etc. Physical, how are you fit? How are you eating? How are you exercising? Marital, relationships with loved ones, partners, etc. Your family. Parental, social, so friends and other members of your community. Vocational, so business, career. Avocational, hobbies, and then financial, right? And then starting to think about, okay, well, which one of those aspects of life do you feel like needs the most improvement? This is why Michael Hyatt came out recently with a fun little test where you could basically see which part of your life you feel like you need more help with, right? So again, we're talking about Michael Hyatt and his program, Best Year Ever, in his book, and I'm sort of like distilling the things that I've learned from that. In addition, we have to consider what our limiting beliefs are. You've probably heard this term before. There was a guest on my podcast way back in episode 46. His name is Dane Maxwell. He's such like a spiritual sort of guy, but he was also able to help people build businesses and find holes in markets to develop software for. And then I had to bring him back on the show because I wanted to learn more about how he thought and how he was able to break through a lot of sort of the struggles of entrepreneurship and help others do the same. And he said, it's all about what we believe in, the limiting beliefs that we have. And a lot of times these terms have been thrown around and it's very woo sometimes, or we connect with like life coaches, and there's nothing wrong with life coaching, but it's all about limiting beliefs and understanding what you believe you think you can do and what you believe you don't think you can do, right? And a lot of things have happened this year where we might be starting to sort of look for proof for these limiting beliefs, right? For example, saying like, oh, the market, the niche I'm in is super saturated right now. Therefore, it's going to be difficult for me to create something and provide value there, right? Well, that's a limiting belief, because what happens is when you start to have these beliefs, you start to look for proof. And when you start to find that proof, because that's what you're looking for, this is what we call our confirmation bias, right? And an example of this that I think we can all relate to is when you have a bad day. You start out by getting out of your bed on the wrong side, and maybe you stub your toe, and then the sink clogs in the bathroom, and you're like, oh no, it's going to be one of those bad days. And what happens? You start to pay attention to all the things that support that, right? And this can happen on a micro level, like on having a bad day, but it can also happen on the macro level, like having a bad year. And so the choice has to be made whether or not, when you stub your toe and then that other thing bad happens and that other thing bad happens, if you start to create the story that this just connects the whole day together, it actually affects your future. It actually affects what you look at and what you perceive and what happens, because your beliefs shape your reality. And if you believe today is going to be a bad day and you look for that proof, guess what? Well, you're going to have a bad day, and you're going to end the day and just only think about the things that supported the decision that you made earlier in that day, which is, this is going to be a bad day, right? The other side of this is you stub your toe, the sink gets clogged, and you know what? You say, okay, well, that was not a great start to the morning, but I'm not going to have this affect the rest of my day. And then you start looking for proof for the other thing, for great things that you can be grateful for. This is why gratitude practice is very key. But then you start to actually make up the story and begin to believe that, hey, that was just an anomaly that those things happen. Here are the great things that happen that prove that this is not a bad day. And then you can start living and behaving and thinking more positively, right? If that makes sense. Okay, so I have some limiting beliefs that I wrote last year that I want to read out. I don't know what I wrote. I'm trying to remember. But the cool thing about this is this was in 2019. No, this was 2018. At the end of 2018. So I pulled out there's no year on this, but this was the year before 2019, so 2018. Limiting belief number 1. I'm not sure I'll be able to organize a worthwhile and valuable first event, FlynnCon 1, that people will enjoy. Number 2, I won't make a dent when it comes to my larger ambitious goals related to education for kids. Who am I to do anything about that? I'm not even qualified. Number 3, my courses don't provide enough value to my students. Number 4, I don't have what it takes to grow a successful YouTube channel that catches more attention. Number 5, readers may not get a ton of value from the book I'm writing, superfans. Maybe it's not good enough. It might waste people's time. So these were actual thoughts that I had in this moment here in this book, right? Question, what's your take on not telling people about your goals because it stops motivation mentally? I've heard this philosophy. Yeah, Derek Sivers, I think, had a TED Talk about stating your goals. And I think it's the mindset that you have when stating these goals is the issue, right? Sometimes when we state our goals and share them with others, it makes us feel like we've already accomplished them, right? And I think there's a lot more that we need to think about when it comes to what we share. And I think in addition to just sharing the goals, we need to tell people what we're going to do about it. Because it's when we tell people what we're going to do to reach those goals, that then becomes accountability. That then becomes something that we don't want to let people down for, right? So we need to flip the script on these limiting beliefs. So here's how I do that. So let's see. So that first limiting belief, I'm not sure I'll be able to organize a worthwhile and valuable first event, FlynnCon 1, that people will enjoy. Liberating truth. I reject this belief based on A, never having done this before means a huge opportunity to make it more unique and better than anyone can imagine. B, I have an amazing team and volunteer team who want it to be as great as I do. So now I'm seeing that there's things in my favor to actually make this event the best it can be. And after holding this event last year and getting feedback, I know that we were able to crush it. People have said that that was the most unique and different and best event that they've ever been to. And we were able to make it happen. Now, obviously, we weren't able to make it happen this year, but it definitely, and that's kind of sad, but we were able to make it happen, which was pretty cool. What's up, Julian? Good to see you here, my friend. Let's see. Elton said, Pat did share he wanted to slow down in the year 2020. Not sure if this is true. We have to define these things, right? So when I said I wanted to slow down this year, it was a result of not traveling as much, because slow down can mean many things, right? But when we start to have defined measurable goals, then we can start to actually see if this is working or not. So I actually did slow down this year. Part of it was forced because of the pandemic, but it was already going that direction anyway. So one of my goals for 2020 was to travel less. And so as a result of that, I actually booked half of the amount of speaking that I was going to do. And then COVID happened and I didn't speak at all. So I actually did slow down in that case because it was really important for me to be home more. So it's kind of, again, COVID threw everybody to a loop. But what's up, Martin? Good to see you here. Thank you for the thumbs ups, by the way. I appreciate you for that. Okay, what was another liberating truth? Or what was another limiting belief that I had? Number 4, I don't have what it takes to grow a successful YouTube channel that catches more attention. So this is back in 2018, I was thinking this, and I had about 125,000 subscribers at the time. Here is my rewrite of that limiting belief. My YouTube channel is already successful and represents just a fraction of what can happen. I have fans, regular viewers, and help from experts to get it going. I was able, this was back when I had 60,000 subscribers. So it's definitely grown a lot since then, right? So again, taking these things, careful what I wish for, right? What's up, Martin? Good to see you here. Boss man. Okay, let's see. Number 5, readers may not get a ton of value from the book I'm writing, Superfans. Maybe it's not good enough. It might waste people's time. So here's how, prior to publishing this book, I was able to rewrite that story. The presentation the book is based off of is my most popular and in-demand talk that everyone says is a message that needs to be put into a book. Jay Bear even encouraged me to write it. I will do what it takes. This is having agency, to realize that you will have agency to do what it takes to make this happen. And I do have the ability to make it a staple bestseller business book. And so I did. And the book came out, Superfans, right there. And it continues to blow me away in terms of how much more momentum it's having. It had less of a launch success than Will It Fly, which became a Wall Street Journal bestseller. But I feel like Superfans is taking off even more post-launch, which is exactly what I wanted to happen. I'd much rather have that than have a big bang in the beginning and then have it die. So I'm loving that people are still sharing it and purchasing it and buying it as gifts for people, and the audiobook having it be a little bit more unique with sort of going off to script everyone. Anyway, I'm just so stoked for how it did. So it's been really cool to sort of see the book not written yet here in this timestamp, and then now being on the other side of it. And I guarantee you that these exercises of the rewrite of these limiting beliefs was so key, right? Is the workbook available separate from Michael's course? Yeah, I would recommend checking out the Full Focus Planner. This workbook and all the principles in it, as well as the writing aspects and the workbook component, are within the Full Focus Planner. Cool. So the next section in this workbook talks about completing the past, which I'm not going to talk about too much. This is the idea of acknowledging, like, from the previous year, what actually happened and realizing that maybe you did fall short on a couple things, but what can you learn from that, right? Perhaps thinking more deeply about why you fell short. Maybe if you had a fitness goal, thinking about, okay, well, what actually happened, and then how we're going to change this for the next year. So this is lesson 2, completing the past, and I'm not going to dig too much into that, but that's kind of that's sort of the big gist of lesson 2 here, because I really want to dive into designing our future and thinking about these goals. And have you ever heard about SMART goals? Bonus points if you can tell me the acronym SMART and what that means, because this is a very common way to approach goal setting, which is something that Michael Hyatt adapted and added to a little bit more. And I love the way Michael does it, because there's 1 or 2 components in there that aren't in the acronym SMART for goal setting. And that actually is not something that was thought about when I was creating smart passive income, but it does relate, obviously. So I'm going to say it did. But what we need to do is we need to clarify, right? That's what we're doing here. We're designing what we want to accomplish in 2021, and we need to clarify and actually sort of learn from others who have really understood the structure and the format and the creation of these goals. So let's get into them. So let's see if anybody can. So specific, correct. Lex. Measurable, correct. Achievable, indeed. Relevant and timed. So thank you, Lex, Ariel, Simple Startup, and many more people. So you've heard of these things, all right? But the acronym that Michael has is SMARTER with an ER at the end. So SMATER, right? T for timely, yes. So what are these additional things? Well, let's go through each of these one by one in Michael Hyatt's format, SMARTER, right? Ryan knows the Oreo acronym, which is great. I love that. See how well these acronyms work? Like, they help us remember things. So remember that if you're sharing information with people, how might you put it into an acronym or something that can more easily be remembered and stored in our brains? So number one, specific, right? So instead of, I want to get fit next year, getting specific. What does get fit mean? Does that mean you run a mile within a certain time? Does that mean that you're going to lose a certain number of pounds? Does that mean you're going to be able to stretch to a point where you can touch the ground without it being something that hurts you, right? So let's get precise, right? And in this case, so again, I'm talking about the goals that I was setting for myself at the end of 2018, because that's the book I just readily had available for what we should be doing in 2019. So this is, again, 2020, thinking about 2021. But in this case, I wrote down specific because this helps you understand what your efforts should be. So, I'm trying to remember what I wrote about. I wrote same water and narrow or wide pipe. So imagine that you are water, right? And if you put water in a wide pipe, it's just going to be trickles, right? And there's not going to be a lot of force on the other end. But if you put that same amount of water in a small pipe, like a little hose, then you're going to get a lot more pressure on the other end. It's going to be more focused, and you're going to be able to make some more progress, right? So having specific goals is having a smaller pipe for that same water to go through. That's kind of what we were doing, right? So what I wrote here is Superfan's book, get it done by January 2019, right? So very specific. I even include the date, which is where we need to have it be time keyed, right? But anyway, yeah, so that's just one example. I'm not going to list them all because I want to keep going. So measurable, to gauge your process, right? To be able to track. You can't improve what you don't measure. And so again, having these goals, this is very similar to when we're creating online courses, right? You've heard me talk about this before. We need to be specific about the transformation. If you sell a course about, hey, come get my, my language learning course. Okay, well, what does that even mean? Versus Benny Lewis, who has a course that helps you, and this is his tagline, learn how to have a 15-minute conversation in Portuguese within 90 days. That's the tagline of his course. You can't get more, you can, but that's very specific. The clear outcome is there, therefore it's much easier to sell. With goal setting, we're selling ourselves on these things, and when we create them specific and measurable, we're able to understand how we're tracking, and we're able to better define in our brain what it is that we're working toward when we start measuring, right? So tracking, absolutely critical, and you want to be able to measure these things that we have, that we have, right? So it's like, I want to, in 2021, just, my goal is to be more happy. How do you measure happiness? Well, you might measure it with a number of days off that you have, for example. So I'm going to track and make sure and measure that I'm taking one day off every single week. And then maybe now we can start getting more defined with our plans. We can go, okay, now I'm going to make sure that every Friday I have off, which means Monday to Thursday, I'm going to get all my work done and I'm going to have Friday off. And that's how I'm going to measure my happiness, because I know that on that day, I'm going to be playing with Pokemon cards for the entire time, or playing video games, because that's what makes me happy, right? Thank you for all the likes, by the way. Technical guys, I'm from India. Thanks for coming in, technical guys. Is it more than one of you, or is it just one of you? Just wondering. Okay, So we have specific, measurable. Those are two that are similar to what many of you have mentioned are SMART goals, but we're talking about smarter goals, right? So specific, measurable, actionable, right? So we need a strong verb, right? What I wrote here is we need strong verbs to direct our effort. So for example, instead of, get healthy or, be fit or have, lunch, have a healthy lunch every day, it's like finish this or eliminate this, right? Eliminate fast food for lunch in 2021, right? Versus, oh, I'm just going to have a healthy lunch. No, let's eliminate unhealthy lunches for 2021, right? So a much stronger verb in order to be actionable, right? So what are your goals for 2021? I'm getting there. That's coming up in the next section here. Or get jacked. Okay. So smarter, specific, measurable, actionable, with a really strong verb to go with it. R, risky. This is a new one. And this is one of my favorites. Risky. Why risky? Because if you continue to stay within your comfort zone, you are not actually growing. Now, obviously, there is a line. And by risky, we don't mean like putting your life on the line. We don't mean, something that's going to, if it were to fail, completely ruin everything. That's not what we mean. Isn't today 264? I might have the days wrong. I'll have to correct that. I sometimes forget or double up on the numbers. So thank you, Samson. Did I not put the date or did I include a wrong number? Let me see. Actually, not important. What's important is that we need to make these goals a little risky, right? We are more like, oh, this is interesting. We are more likely to avoid losses than achieve gains. So this is just human nature. We're much more afraid of losing something than we are excited about gaining something. So when you put a little bit of risk behind something, you are actually setting yourself up for more success with relation to these goals. Number one, a lot of the stuff that happens outside of our comfort zone, right? Next, it will, if there is some sort of consequence, or if there's some sort of, not so great thing that can happen if you weren't able to follow through, then you're more likely to actually have the energy to do it because there is something that is potentially at loss. So I really love that. Loss aversion, exactly. The goal of 2021 is mentioned by Pat yesterday. No, the Deep Pockets details. I mean, that is a project that I have, but that's not necessarily the goal. Great addition, especially in today's world. Yes, you are right, sir. Thank you. Like taking the risk is as exhilarating, but afraid of failure. Right. Comfort is bored. That's what I wrote here. Comfort equals boredom. Right. If you don't have a sense of, whoa, if I don't get that, that's kind of bad. Or if you set your goals and it's like, oh, that's easily achievable, right? Then yeah, you could likely achieve that goal, but that's not helping you, right? Or it becomes something that's just so easy for you to do that you actually just don't do it because you had expected that you could do it whenever, versus something that is a little bit risky that you're then going to put a lot more effort into, or at least make sure that you don't have that aversion to that, so that you don't have just too much comfort in it, right? Tanning beds can be risky, yes. Is your goal to be a little bit more tan, Rex? Or Lex? Tim Ferriss's reset exercise usually shows that the worst that can happen is always possible to recover from. Indeed. Number 5, time-keyed. So time-based, time-keyed. So a deadline or a certain frequency, if it's a habit-based goal that you have, a certain amount of time, having a start time to something, or an end date, right? So for me, with my book Superfans, at the time that I was writing this particular set of goals in 2018, it was I want to have my book complete and in my team's hands by by the end of January 2019. Because, that was risky, because part of the deal was that I was going to announce this book and actually give it away at FlynnCon. And if I didn't reach that goal in time, and again, I had that deadline, but also there was some risk. My team and what we were planning would be affected. The big announcement at the event would be affected. And of course, I was also thinking about if people don't get their hands on this information, it might not help them, right? I love all the eyes that I'm seeing here. Simple Startup says, yes, winning $100 doesn't make you proportionally happier than losing $100 makes you feel worse. Indeed. I mean, you can even be upset about losing something you've never had, right? When you have a chance to win something and then you don't win it, you feel worse, right? My son knows this because every once in a while I'll be like, yo, I'll give you $1 if you make that shot. And he'll miss it and he'll be really upset. And I'm just like, I'm using that to practice. And of course, if he gets it, I'll give him the $1. But sometimes he feels like he loses it, even though he actually didn't lose anything. He just had a chance and missed out on it. And that's human nature, right? When you have this possibility and you don't get it, that loss aversion goes a very long way. You can use this to your advantage, right? Lex says, but you finished on your birthday. I did finish the first draft on my birthday, Lex. I didn't finish the completed draft until January. All right. So there's two different kinds of goals. Achievement goals, so having something done by a certain date, right? And habit goals, regularly ongoing activities. And these are sort of goals that really have to work together, right? If you have an achievement goal, they can often be supported by a habit goal to go along with that. When I was writing my book, Superfans, and my book, Will It Fly, I had habit goals of writing every single day in the morning. And that was just the goal, write every day, right? I just tried to make it easy, but it was something that was measurable. I wasn't measuring how many words because I realized that sometimes even though I would write really good words, even if it wasn't up to the number that I needed, then I still felt bad, even though I wrote really well. So I didn't have that imposed on me anymore. It was just write every day, if that makes sense, right? I'm so motivated by this conversation, y'all. Thank you, Sean. Okay, let's keep going. So we have SMART so far, but there's ER. Specific, measurable, actionable, risky, that's the new one, time-keyed, exciting. If you're not excited about these goals, then it's going to be very difficult to achieve them, honestly, right? So enjoyment is key. We usually set goals we need or other people say we need. Does the goal inspire me? Is it fun? And if it's not, perhaps reshaping it in a way or rewording it in a way that makes it fun for you, or thinking about it from a different angle can really make that happen, right? So how do we make this fun? And that's going to keep us going through a lot of those tough times, right? So exciting. Hopefully these goals are exciting, right? John says, sorry I came in late. No worries. I'm just glad you're here. Cool. And then finally, relevant, right? To avoid conflict with your life or your values, it must be relevant to you, and it must be something that, matters to you. If it doesn't matter to you, if it's not relevant, then it's going to be very difficult to achieve these goals. And again, you're probably maybe doing these goals for other people, and we need to do them for ourselves. Yes, these goals can support other people, but they need to be relevant to us for sure, right? What's up, Manos? Good to see you here. I do a genealogy podcast, and my episode is all about goal setting for family researchers. I encourage the 30 minutes for 30 days as a good way of getting yourself to build good habits. Yes, so whatever the case might be, 30 minutes for 30 days. I love it. It's easy. It's trackable. It's not too long, but it's long enough to be able to build that habit. I love that, Brian. Let me post that up for you. Thank you. Yo, I love corn dogs. Why are we talking about corn dogs? Now I want corn dogs. Okay. All right. So now here is a blank sheet that you can sort of take on your own. Again, I would highly recommend checking out Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner because you'll get a lot of things like this. But when it comes to these goals, you'll see this sheet here that is actually something that you could sort of have a template for. So creating these goals, marking them as, making sure that they tick all the boxes, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, risky, time keyed, exciting, and relevant. And then is this an achievement goal or a habit goal? And that's really important to denote. I think, and this is what got me to fall in love with Michael Hyatt stuff, because I started to create habit goals that were related to these achievements. And that way it sort of just like helped me get there. And these habit goals are very important, but they're approached a little bit differently. They're approached in a more gamified kind of way, right? Going to the gym 3 days a week or meditating every day, and tracking that is really key. And one thing that we as humans don't like is to see blanks or empty fields. So when you start to take advantage of that fact and have habit goals to go along with it, if you have something visual that you can see or that you have to check in with every day, very similar to what we see on the rings on the Apple Watches, right? Like people have to get their steps in and their movement and get up every once in a while, and they fill out those rings. And I know some people who have had hundreds of consecutive days, and they could not imagine not having an empty space. Like it would almost ruin their life if that were to happen. And so this is how motivated we are by that. So with these habit goals, tracking is absolutely imperative. It's so, so important. And to visually see this or have something remind you every day, whether it's an alarm or a big poster that you can mark off or check off. Or for me, for example, my journaling habit has been very important to me. And I use the 5-minute journal, and there's a page that you fill out the date. And if all the dates must be in a row, or else I go crazy, right? So habit goals that help you achieve achievement goals, right? So there were people who had mentioned that you were wanting to create, online courses, right? So what might be a habit goal that can help support you with that? It could be a goal of setting in and maybe every day checking in to see what your audience might need the most help with, right? And that way that allows you to, and that's your goal, one day a week, or every day at least, having some sort of direct message conversation with somebody in your audience through a social media platform to better understand what they might need help with. That could be a habit goal that can help you with your achievement goal. Maybe it's the idea of, creating lesson plans and, doing this for 3 months, once a week, creating a lesson plan so that by the end of 3 months, you have all these lesson plans done, and you will have now something that can help you with your achievement, right? So you create a habit of creation for the thing that you're hoping to achieve, like an online course, for example, right? Streaks, yes. That is me being here each day to not miss your live stream, says Ryan. Thank you. Thank you. I wish that YouTube had something that would allow you to see like how many consecutive days you'd be here. Imagine how many more people, imagine how many more people would show up every day knowing that the number of days were tracked, and it would show how many consecutive days there were. People would not want to miss that, right? And that would be pretty amazing. Pat, this has been super inspiring for me today. You're welcome, Kathy. And we're still going. We're still going. We still got 10 minutes left. And I want to continue on with your why, right? What are your key motivations? And prioritizing those motivations are really key, right? So this is the sort of next part here. When it comes to the goals that you set for yourself, and the smarter goals and the habit and the achievement goals, right? This is nice because you can also put them into different quarters. Here are the domains that those goals are relevant for: spiritual, parental, intellectual, social, emotional, vocational, so hobby, career, physical, avocational, so hobby related, just kind of for fun type stuff, marital, and financial, right? And then key motivations. Why is that goal important to you, right? This is so key, because this right here is what's going to help you remember after you write these things down. That's why this binder was so key. I can't find my 2019 one for some reason. It should be easily available, but I've been moving a lot of stuff around in the office. But this one I had in my archive, and I had it easily findable. But this is why tracking these things is so important. And this is exactly why I'm sure Michael Hyatt transitioned from an online course with workbooks to the Full Focus Planner, which is a journal that you can get that helps you have it just be right at your nightstand, and you can see it and you go into it every day, right? So key motivations. What are your key motivations? And ranking them, right? So you might have certain motivations, like 5 or 6 things that motivate you to lose your weight. And then when you start ranking them, you start to then think about and see. You almost put like a circle around it to go, this is the real reason why I'm doing this, right? So, hey, you might want to lose weight for 2021. What are your key motivations? Okay, you want to look better, sure. You want to have more endurance. Great. You want to make sure that you are able to be the best example for your kids. Awesome. Now let's rank those. Number one, gosh, I got to be the example for my kids because I don't want them to grow up unhealthy either. So let's circle that one. And now, when you start thinking about going to the gym and creating these habit goals that support that, you're not only thinking about what it can do for you, but you remember and you can see and check in with yourself every quarter or every month and go, wow, the real reason I'm doing this is because I'm being an example for my kids. What example am I setting? Right? So your key motivation is absolutely key. So let's see. And then finally, your next steps. So with each of these goals, what are your next steps? That's right here. List the first few steps you need to reach your goal. So, okay, I need to get a gym membership, right? Although I don't know if gym memberships now, or I need to get that piece of equipment I need, or I need to research and find a personal trainer, or I need to find a gym partner or somebody who can hold me accountable to this. Like whatever your first steps might be related to these goals. So Andrew, for you who wanted to create some online resources to help you get off of disability, what might your first steps be, do you think? And this is the beginning of our goals, right? The Nordic Hunter, you have me listening like a dog, head tilting included. That reminds me, my son found that there were videos on YouTube that you could look up that promise to make your dog's head tilt. And he found one and he played it, and lo and behold, Jarvis was looking at the computer screen and was tilting his head the whole time. It was amazing. We had a blast for sure. So again, Full Focus Planner, hashtag not sponsored, but that's where you can get a lot of these kinds of worksheets to help you specifically fill out and keep track and measure and write these things down. And I got to give a big thank you again to Michael Hyatt for inspiring this conversation today and for the last 7 years helping me structure my goals. So what are your goals now for 2021? And if you can be specific, if you have a specific date to go along with it, or perhaps it's an achievement, a habit goal, and you have a certain number of days that you want to do something, like I would love to have you reshape that goal that you mentioned in the beginning of our conversation today in a way that is more structured to the stuff that we were talking about, right? So let me give you one example of a specific, measurable, relatable, excited, relevant, risky goal that I have for next year. And one of those is to grow this channel to 500,000 subscribers by December 31st. So within a year, I want to essentially double the size of the channel. What are my first steps? I've already found somebody who has helped some of my friends who goes really deep into the analytics to help understand what the channel should create. And I'm going to be documenting and talking about that process as well so that I can share a lot of what I'm learning with you. And also, I know as a result of that, I might help out this person get more exposure. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm very, very excited about that for sure. It is a little bit risky because it's time taken away from other things that I could do. Another goal that we have is related to something related to podcasting that I cannot quite share specifically with you right now because it's more of a secret insider project right now with an SPI. But you'll know about it next year for sure. It does involve podcasting. It is risky because it will take some capital to get started. But it's something that my team and I are very, very excited about. It's measurable because we have a certain number of certain things that we want to happen by a certain number of time, by a certain time, right? Thank you, guys. Let's see. I'm just looking at the chat here. Does this person have the initials DE? They do not. They do not. Although that person is helping too, just through mainly just like conversation, and I'm helping them with a book launch, and they're helping me. But this is a different person who I will be hiring. In fact, I am going to say that I forgot the word today, the secret word. I was just so deep with today's conversation that it was just on the fringe of my mind, and I completely forgot it. That's a secret word, by the way. So we're going to count that as a loss today for me, and I will need to play a game of Watch Your Mouth on Friday as a result. I totally missed it, That was my fault. It completely spaced on me. And I think it's because I've been rearranging and my post-it note is over there. It wasn't front and center like it should have been. Darn it. Okay. Pat, I fear that you may start being like the other biggies that push people down the sales funnel, but you come across as a natural. Love your work. You know, my approach, and thank you, Bill, for that. I think it's important to, this is a great way to sort of end this conversation today. You know, it's really important to stay true to your values and your beliefs. And that way, no matter how big you might grow or what you might do, you're always staying within those boundaries of who you know you are and who you know you should be. And for me, Bill, you know, ever since I started this journey back in 2008, I've always made sure, because I've seen some of my friends go down the dark side. I've seen some of my friends who did get big, who completely changed, who then started to talk more about money, and that's it. But what's exciting is that all the things that we're planning to do in 2021 actually further support the connection and value that we want to provide to you. Whether it's paid things, and this big project that I'm talking about involves free things for the audience. So this is I'm 100% positive that what you'll see come out of me through the number of years here, that sounds very disgusting, by the way, but you know what I mean, are going to be in line with who you know me for, or Bill, I know you and I have just been introduced to each other, but who you believe I am to be. And so if I have yet to earn your full trust with that, that's completely fine. I get it. We're going on dates right now, right, Bill? We're going on dates, and you know, maybe there'll be a time when there's an opportunity for us to go deeper, or you can just stay sort of you know, in the chat here and follow along. And if you get what you need, then I've given you everything, and that makes me happy, right? So anyway, the secret word this week is fringe, and there's a bonus secret word, conical, which is very difficult for me to include. Fringe, I could have included it a couple times, but I completely forgot. Anyway. Definitely check out Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner and get a lot of the stuff that we talked about more in depth and more structured, and a nice little workbook that you can actually you know, use. It's a great gift, and you know, if you need a gift for yourself, that would definitely be something that I would recommend for sure. So anyway, nice date it is. Thank you, Bill, for the super chat, by the way. We're going on a $2 date apparently. I'm still working on getting the screenshots resized to send to you. Got a couple hundred to go. Cool, thank you. Let's see. I'm still working on getting this. Okay, you already said that. Yay, super chat. Agreed, peasant. You can trust Pat. He's given us so much. Thank you, Cynthia. You know, and these are just words, right? I want you to see my actions as well, and I want to equip all of you who are watching this right now to, if you ever see me going down that dark side, if you ever see me going into sort of what you've perhaps come to see other people do when it doesn't feel good anymore, or it doesn't feel right, or it just doesn't like sit well with you, I want you to tell me. Okay, that's the one thing that has helped me across time more than anything, is the audience has been very outspoken, you. And I would ask you, if you haven't heard me say this already, please be very honest with me. Please let me know when something doesn't sit right. Please let me know if you believe there's something I can do better, because I need help too, and I cannot do this alone, and I wouldn't be here without you. And I'm hoping that the value that I can provide back to you is proportional to the energy that you give me, if not more. So thank you. I appreciate you. Is it available on Amazon? I believe it's only available. It might be, actually. I don't know if it's available on Amazon, but I do know that it is available. If you look up the fullfocusjournal.com, I believe you'd be able to check that out. Anyway, great conversation today. We went into great detail about goal setting, starting with mindset and determining what our limiting beliefs are, rewording those limiting beliefs, because that's just a story we're telling ourselves, right? That's absolutely just a story we're telling ourselves. And yes, certain things have happened in the past, and that is what it is. We can't go back in the time machine and change that. But what we can understand is that we have taken a time machine to now from wherever we were, and we are writing our story for the future. And you get to determine what that story becomes and what the outcome of that story is. And a lot of that's going to be based on the specific actions that you take, the goals that you achieve, and we can reverse engineer these goals to determine what our first steps are, what the key motivations are to help drive us forward. And remember, smarter goals, right? Specific, measurable, actionable, time-keyed, SMAT. Specific, measurable, actionable, risky, time-keyed, exciting, and relevant. All right. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. And I owe you a game of Watch Your Mouth on Friday. So anyway, tomorrow, come back, same time, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. We're going to go probably 9 a.m. the entire week, just to keep it simple this week based on what I see in the calendar. So we're all good there. I want to thank you so much for your time and attention today. And 2021 is right around the corner. Thank you for all the birthday wishes yesterday, by the way. And I appreciate you so much. As always, Team Flynn for the win, and I'll see you tomorrow. And we're going to talk more about stuff happening in 2021 together. In fact, tomorrow's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have an open discussion about the future, right? We have to talk about the future. We're going to talk about what perhaps might happen in 2021 related to content and online business. And we're just going to have a fun little open discussion together about predicting what might happen and how to get ahead of things. So there we go. That's what tomorrow's about. Take care. Thank you. And as always, Team Flynn for the win. Woo!
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream. All while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
All right. Great show today. Thank you so much for letting me blab for an hour with you. And whether you are focused fully and you're seeing my face, or you're watching me in the background and you're not watching, I just appreciate you being here. Thanks so much, Team Flynn for the win. Peace out.
Bruh.